happen in a moment. Talking about the rapture. In the blink of an eye. When the last trumpet is blown. So what signals the rapture? The trumpet. The trumpet's going to signal. For when the trumpet sounds. Now it's interesting because John in chapter 4 verse number 1 hears the sound of the trumpet speaking to him. And he understood what the trumpet was saying. The trumpet was saying, come up here. Well, I don't know if John knew what the trumpet was saying, but the trumpet was speaking to him, and supernaturally he already knew what it said. Come up here, and I will show you things that must come to be after these things. Now, let's go back to 1 Corinthians 15:52. For when the trumpet sounds, that signals the rapture. Those who have died will be raised to live forever, and we who are living will also be transformed. So the trumpet signals the rapture. So what's going to happen when the trumpet is blown? Well, the dead's going to be resurrected, and those who are living will be transformed. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, with the trumpet call of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them. Who is them? The dead who are resurrected. We will be caught up together with them in the clouds. Now, here's interesting. The Lord's going to come down from heaven, but is he coming all the way to the earth? No. Why? Because we're going to go up and meet him in the clouds. And then he says to meet the Lord in the air, not on the ground. So we will be with the Lord forever. Now, notice what he says. The trumpet's going to sound. Those who have died will be resurrected. Those who are alive will be transformed, according to 1 Corinthians 15:52. And both will be caught up in the clouds. In other words, they will be raptured. That phrase, caught up, is from the Greek word harpazo. When it is translated from Greek into Latin, we saw the word, raptius. And that's where we get our English word rapture. So, what happened to John in Revelation chapter 4, verse number 1? He was raptured. He went to heaven. Now, here's the important point that I want you to see. His rapture represents the rapture of the church. We know that for several reasons. First of all, what happened to John is exactly what Paul says will happen to the church. Secondly, the church is not mentioned again until the last chapter of Revelation, chapter 22. Did you know that? Now, in the first 3 chapters, we see the focus on the church. Why? Because it's the church age. Jesus is concerned with the church. But once we get to chapter 4, verse number 1, guess what? We don't ever see or hear about the church anymore. Why do we not hear about the church anymore? The focus is not on the church anymore. Who is the focus on? The focus is on those who are left behind. Because Jesus was warning all the people in the churches they need to be prepared so they won't be left behind. And last but not least, after John's rapture takes place, here in chapter 4, verse 1, we do see the church in heaven, only it's not called the church anymore. The word church, ecclesia, comes from 2 Greek words, the prefix ek, which means out of, and kaleo, which means to call. We in the church are the called out ones. We are called out of the world. The true believers are in heaven now with Jesus. Verse 2. And immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. Now immediately, as soon as the trumpet sounded, John was in the Spirit, and he was standing before a throne in heaven. Now, that's interesting because according to chapter 1, verse number 10, John was already in the Spirit. Do you remember that? If you go back to Revelation chapter 1, verse number 10, Jesus said, I was in the Spirit on the day of the Lord. So does that mean he wasn't in the Spirit? When he looked up into heaven, he saw the door open? Does that mean he wasn't in the Spirit when the trumpet blew and he understood it as if it were a voice? Was John saying he wasn't in the Spirit when all of this happened? until all of a sudden he was found himself in heaven and then he was immediately in the Spirit? No. John has been in the Spirit the whole time. When he told us in chapter 1, verse number 10, that I was in the Spirit on the day of the Lord, he meant he's in the Spirit, and he continued on. This is not two visions. This is not another vision, as most scholars say. He's been in the Spirit the whole time. So why does John say, and immediately I was in the Spirit? He says that because it's the only way he knows to describe the rapture experience. And all of a sudden, when he looks up to heaven and he sees the door standing open, he hears the trumpet speaking to him and saying, come up here. Immediately, he says, I'm in the Spirit. Why does he say that? Because it's the only way he knows to describe the rapture experience. Immediately when that trumpet blew, he was changed. He felt a transformation just like we will feel when we are raptured.